Gary, what is the source of your inspiration? In other words, where do you get your ideas? Where do they come from for you?
Well, I had some things that were systematic and some things not so much. But one thing I did, I was really obsessive about reading. And so whenever I would read an article, and this was when you didn't have computers and you type them all up and put them in a folder, I would use 3x5 cards, and I would write down anything on an article. I'd write the reference, and I'd write down something from the article. And then if I had an idea that came out of that, I would actually write it on a longer piece of paper, and I had an idea folder. So I would keep those ideas, and 2 or 3 times in my career, I reached back 10 or 15 years to go back to something that I had thought about at an earlier point in time. But I'd say there were 2 other sources. So another source was simply my students. So, you know, working with students, being in doctoral seminars, I would often ask them to come up with a research idea on the topic that we were discussing that week. And so those would be ideas, and sometimes they'd lead to fruition with the students. So that was another source of ideas. And certainly the last 20 or 30 years, I did a lot of my work collaboratively with my students. And then I think the final thing is, I started probably in the 1980s having team meetings with my students and my colleagues. So Marilyn Gist and Tom Lee and Lee Beach and other people that I worked with for longer periods of time. And we would meet once a week, and we would kind of go around the room and talk about the things we were doing in our research projects. But we would always focus some on, do we have some new ideas, some things we want to think about, and areas we might want to do more research.